Welcome back to another crochet tutorial with Cosy Rosie UK, and today I am sharing with you this popcorn granny square, and this is being featured in the In the Mood granny square blanket, and it's representing those energetic weeks that we may have. If you're not already familiar with the In the Mood projects, they are 4 different crochet projects that are using stitches that are assigned to our moods. We're tracking our moods for a total of 52 weeks to create the most beautiful granny square in this case. You can find out more details about the In the Mood projects with the link in the description box below, where you can also find out how to get your very own In the Mood tracker. Very excited to be sharing this square with you because I really do like how poppy it is. It does pop out quite a lot, and it is a very textured stitch, very tactile as well. Now I've been using this self-striping yarn, which is Hayfield Spirit, which is a size 3 double knit weight yarn, and it's an 80% acrylic 20% wool mix. And for each of the squares that are featured in this event, you need about 35 to 50 meters maximum, and the shade number, in case you're interested, is 408, and this is Sundown. This is how you'll see it photographed on all the websites. It's absolutely stunning, and there are variations of this yarn available out there as well. I am using the recommended hook size for this yarn, which is a 4mm crochet hook. It's just an old hook I've had lying around for a number of years, and you've got to need a darning needle and some scissors to get those ends woven in. But I am going to be sharing with you how to do this near invisible join on your granny squares to make it even easier to join your squares together. So gather your materials and let's get started. We're going to start by making a slip knot and placing that onto our hook. We're then going to make a chain of 4, so we yarn over and pull through 4 times. That was 1, 2, 3 and 4. We're going to slip stitch to the first chain that we made by our slip knot. So we just insert the hook under that first chain, yarn over, pull through and straight through the loop on your hook, and this will create a ring for us to work into. I do pull mine apart a little bit to make it really obvious where that middle is. Where I'm pulling my tail, you can see another hole. That's just where we've slip stitched. We've got to ignore that hole and work into the middle. From here, we're going to start by making a chain of 3. So that's 1, 2 and 3, and this counts as our first double crochet of the round. We're then going to yarn over the hook and insert into the middle of our ring, and yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 to make a double crochet. You'll notice that I'm also working over my end at the same time, just saves me weaving it in too much at the end. We're going to yarn over and reinsert into the middle of that ring again. So yarn over, bring our loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2. Because this chain 3 counts as our first double crochet, we now have 3 double crochets worked into the center of that ring. We're going to make our first corner by yarning over and pulling through twice to create a chain of 2. We're then going to work a further 3 US double crochets into the center of that ring again. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 2 for number 1, and we're going to make a further 2. So we yarn over, insert for number 2, and yarn over again for number 3. We're going to make our next corner by making a chain of 2 before we yarn over and work a further 3 double crochets into the center. I'm still working over my tail at the same time. So that's number 1, 2 and 3. We're going to make another corner with our chain of 2 before working our last 3 double crochets into the center of this ring. It's 1, 2 and 3. We just need to make our final corner by making a chain of 2, and then we are ready to slip stitch to the top of our chain 3. So there's 1, 2, there's the third one here. Just going to insert my hook through the middle and grab 2 loops and then we slip stitch to join. So you now have 4 chain 2 spaces and 12 double crochets. Going into round 2, we start with a chain of 2, so we yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through. Now this chain 2 does not count as a stitch, which means we're going to yarn over and work our first double crochet into that same space that we joined. So we yarn over, insert, yarn over, bring a loop up, yarn over, pull through 2 and pull through 2. So this chain 2 does not count as a stitch, so that's our first double crochet. I'm just rearranging this so I can see my stitch for this middle one a little bit clearer. I'm going to yarn over, insert under the next stitch to work our next double crochet, and then we're working into that third stitch with another double crochet. This brings us to our corner where we're going to work 2 double crochets. That's number 1. This is number 2. We maintain that corner shape by making a further chain of 2. That's 1 and 2. And then we work another 2 double crochets into the same chain 2 corner space. That's number 1 and that's number 2. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches before we get to our next corner, and sometimes this stitch disappears underneath our corner. So you can move your stitches out of the way so you can get into this stitch. This is the post of the stitch here, and that's where that stitch is. So we're going to yarn over, ready to work into the top of that next stitch, and we're working 1 double crochet into each of the next 3. That's number 2, and this is number 3. That brings us to our next corner where we have that chain 2 space, and we're going to work 2 double crochets. That's 1 and 2. We chain 2 before working a further 2 double crochets into that same chain 2 space. We're then ready to work into the top of the next 3 stitches, remembering that first one might be hidden, so have a little play around and follow it up from your post. It will just be on the side there. So that's number 1, 2 and 3. We're then into our next corner, so we're working 2 double crochets, so that's 1 and 2. We chain 2 to maintain that corner, working a further 2 double crochets into the same chain 2 space. That's 1 and number 2. We've got the final 3 stitches to work across, so make sure you found that first stitch after your corner. Work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3. There's number 3, and we're into our final corner. We're going to end by working that final corner of 2 double crochets, a chain of 2, and a further 2 double crochets. That's 1 and 2. We're going to slip stitch to the top of that first double crochet that we made. So there's our chain 2. We're ignoring that. Here's that post of that first stitch that we made, and we're just joining to the top of that stitch, making sure we've got both loops, and slip stitching to join. At the end of round 2, you should have a total stitch count of 28 double crochets and 4 chain 2 spaces. Round 3 is where we're going to start working our special stitch, which is the popcorn stitch. We start by making our chain of 2. We're going to work a double crochet into the same place as our chain of 2, and we are then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 2. So that's 1, and then a double crochet into the next for number 2. We're then ready to make our first popcorn stitch. Now the popcorn is different to any other textured stitch in that you make a multiple number of stitches into the same stitch, and then we do something that will feel quite terrifying. So let's get started by making our popcorn. So working into the next stitch, and we're going to make 5 double crochets all into that next stitch. So we yarn over for number 1. We're yarning over and reinserting into the same stitch again. So where that stitch is coming out of, we're reinserting for number 2, yarning over, inserting for number 3, all into the same space. Oops. Yarning over for number 4, and again yarning over for number 5, and they are all worked into, I'm getting ahead of myself, all worked into that same stitch. It's going to look a little bit weird. Now I've already preempted what we're going to do next. We're going to pull our hook up and remove our hook. So I kind of take the yarn off my fingers, and we're going to reinsert our hook into the first double crochet that we made in that stitch. I'm covering up the one next to it, but it can be a little bit tricky to recognize. So you can either count back. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's where you're going to insert your hook. Or you can count your posts, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and you'll see it's just sneaking out of that bottom of that stitch. And then this is still the same one we're going to be inserting our hook into. I cover that one up. However you work out which one you need to go into, it's got to be the 5th one, because we've made 5 double crochets into the same stitch. So counting back, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. I'm going to insert my hook back through that 5th stitch and place the loop back over my hook and secure that yarn around my hook. We're going to slip stitch through to secure that loop back through our stitches, and it creates the popcorn. It pulls it together and puffs out the worked stitches that haven't been cinched. We are then going to make a chain 1 to close that stitch, but that chain 1 does not count as a stitch. So we now have 5 double crochets all worked into that same stitch. I'm going to just pull back very gently. So we can do that once more and make that loop. So we've pulled our hook up after that 5th double crochet. We count back. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We insert our hook through that first double crochet that we made. Place the loop back onto our hook, she says. And we cinch that tight against our hook and kind of bring it through the first stitch and close it with a chain 1. It might feel quite terrifying doing that the first few times, and it's highly likely that at one point you'll pull the working yarn and your first stitch will come undone. Don't keep pulling. Please don't keep pulling, because you will be frustrated with yourself, but it's okay. We expect these things to not go perfect every time. So once you've worked your popcorn, you've closed it with a chain 1. That does not count. We are going to work a double crochet into the next. So we just work a normal standard double crochet into the next. That brings us to our first corner. We are working our normal corner of 2 double crochets, a chain 2, and a further 2 double crochets. So that's 1 and 2. We're going to work a double crochet into that stitch just after our corner. Make sure you've moved that corner out of the way so that you get that first stitch. And we are ready to work our next popcorn into the next stitch. So we're going to be working 5 double crochets into the next stitch. So this is number 1. Yarn over for number 2. It's all worked into the same stitch. Yarn over for number 3. Yarn over for number 4. And finally yarn over for number 5. Just double checking they've all been worked into the same stitch. Pull your loop up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I insert my hook back through that first double crochet that we made. Secure that loop back onto my hook and pull it through like a slip stitch and chain 1 to secure. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches. So that's 1, 2, and 3. And then we're ready to work our next popcorn. So once again, we're working 5 double crochets into that same stitch. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Once you have those 5 double crochets, you can bring your loop up, insert your hook into that 5th or 1st double crochet that you made. I can follow up from the post, it's a little bit angled, and I'm just inserting my hook into that stitch, securing the loop back onto my hook and bringing it through, making a chain 1 to close. We then need to work a double crochet into the next. Look how textured they are, they're amazing, aren't they? We're back to our next corner where we're working 2 double crochets. That's number 2. We chain 2 before working a further 2 double crochets into that next chain 2 space. And we're just going to repeat this on each side of our square. So we work a double crochet into that stitch after our corner before working a popcorn in the next, which is simply 5 double crochets, all worked into that same space. Bring your loop up. You don't have to make it massive, you can make it tiny if you want to. And then you reinsert your hook into that 5th stitch, or the 1st stitch that we made in that group. Secure the loop, bring it through and chain 1. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3, 2 and 3, before we work our popcorn into the next again. So remembering we make 5 double crochets into that same stitch, bring up our loop, insert your hook into that 1st stitch of the group that you made, make sure that loop is over your hook, goodness, secure it against your hook and bring it through, closing with a chain 1. We've got that final double crochet to make in that stitch before our corner, ready to work our 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and a further 2 double crochets into our corner. I will leave you to repeat that along that final side, and I'll meet you once you've finished your last corner, ready to work our last 2 stitches for round 3. Just finishing my final double crochet in that last corner. We need to work a double crochet into the stitch after our corner before working our final popcorn into that last stitch. As always, we're making those 5 double crochets, and there's number 5. Bring up your loop, find your 1st that you made, pop your loop back onto your hook and pull through, chain 1 to close, and we're going to slip stitch to the top of that 1st double crochet that we made, skipping our chain 2, going underneath that 1st stitch that we made and slip stitching to join. If this is your first time making popcorns, let me know in the comments how you've enjoyed making them, because not everyone loves them. I like them because of their huge texture that they create, but not everyone likes them. I hope you do. So at the end of round 3, you should have quite clearly 8 popcorns, 2 on each side, and you should also have 36 double crochets and 4 chain 2 spaces with your corners. Those chain 1 spaces that we've created don't count, so don't count them because they're part of that popcorn stitch. Going into round 4, we're going to start with a chain of 2, and we're going to work a double crochet into the same stitch where we joined, so that's there, with that double crochet. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 2, so that's 1 and 2, before working 1 double crochet into the top of our popcorn stitch. Now this is kind of personal preference because this chain 1 is not going to be worked into, so you can either go through the back of the popcorn itself, or really that's the stitch, but I like to go into the actual popcorn itself and work into the top of it. And we're working a double crochet, so we're yarning over, kind of going through the top of the popcorn, working our next double crochet, and then we're going to work into the top of the next 3 double crochets. So there's the chain 1, so we're skipping this chain 1 space, we're working into the top of the next stitch. So that's 1, 2 and 3 will take us over to our corner. You should currently have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 double crochets before your corner. We're then going to work our corner as normal, working 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and a further 2 double crochets. Make sure you don't miss that first stitch after your corner, and we're working 1 double crochet. So we're working 1 double crochet into each of the next 3. So that's 1, 2, there's number 3. We're going to work through the middle of our popcorn to work our next, oops, that's the only risk, as you might catch something. Work our double crochet into the top of our popcorn before working 1 double crochet into the next 3 again. So there's 1, 2, and 3. Work into the top of our next popcorn. Again, you can go into the back of the stitch there, or you can go through the middle if you like. It's entirely up to you. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3, which takes us over to our next corner. So there's your completed side. We're just going to work our corner, working 2 double crochets, a chain 2 and a further 2 double crochets. And on each edge between your chain 2 corner spaces, you should have 15 double crochets. You can continue to repeat that around, working 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 before working 1 double crochet into the top of your popcorn. You're going to do that twice, and then you just need to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3. That will take you over to your corner, and then in your corner we're working our normal 2 double crochet, chain 2, 2 double crochet, and repeat that around the next side as well. And I'll meet you when you've finished your final corner, ready to work those last few stitches together. I've just finished working my last corner. As you can see, we need to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3, just as we've been doing. 1, 2, and 3. We're going to work into the top of our final popcorn, and then we are ready to join to the top of that first double crochet that we made. So there's our chain 2, and we're joining to the top of that first double crochet of the round, and that will give us a total stitch count of 60 double crochets in round 4. And of course we have our chain 2 spaces in our corners. It might not look like it's going to lay flat, but if you place it down, it will be absolutely fine. I promise. Okay, let's go straight into round 5, and we are beginning with a chain of 2. Once again, we're working our special stitch in this one. We're going to work a double crochet into the same stitch as our chain 2, and then into this next stitch we're going straight into the first popcorn of the round. So we're making those 5 double crochets. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5. Bring our loop up. We know we've only worked 1, so we need to insert our hook into that first double crochet that we made in that group of 5 and chain 1 to close. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 5. That's 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. That's 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's going to leave 2 stitches, the next one of which we are going to work our next popcorn. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Bring up our loop before inserting into the first double crochet of the group, tightening the loop around your hook and bringing it through, making a chain 1 to close. Got to work 1 double crochet into that next stitch before we work our normal corner into that chain 2 space. So we're working 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and a further 2 double crochets into our chain 2 corner space. This round is a repeat really of round 3, just the only difference is there are 5 stitches in between the popcorns this time. So we start by working 1 double crochet into the next stitch after our corner. Make sure we don't miss that first stitch, and then we're ready to work our popcorn into the next stitch. That's number 5. We've got those 5 double crochets all into the same stitch. Find the first stitch that you made, insert your hook, tighten that loop around your hook again, bring it through and make your closing chain 1. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 5. So that's 2, 3, 4 and 5. We're going to make another popcorn stitch, so that's 1, working those 5 double crochets all into that same stitch, 3 and 5. I thought I'd made 6. Just bring up that loop before I go any further. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Don't want to make these popcorns any bigger than they already are, do we? We slip stitch, close with our chain 1, repeating that again, working 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. 5. We have 2 stitches remaining, and we're going to be working our popcorn into the next. That's number 5. Bring up our loop, insert our hook, pop the loop back on, pull through and chain 1, working 1 final double crochet before our corner. Our corner is always remaining the same with those 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 and a further 2 double crochets. So continue to repeat that around what we've just done. So you start by working your double crochet into the first stitch after the corner, you work a popcorn, 1 double crochet into each of the next 5, popcorn, repeat that again, 1 double crochet into each 5, make a popcorn, work 1 final double crochet into the last stitch and then work your corner. So repeat that around for your next 2 sides and I'll meet you for our final corner and then we'll work the last portion of this round together. I've just finished my final corner. I'm sure you know what we're doing here. We're working a double crochet into the next, followed by our popcorn. Our last popcorn actually, I think. We've already done 2 in this part of the square, haven't we? This is our last popcorn. Make our chain 1 to close. We just need to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 5. So that's 2, 3, oh no, the next 4, sorry, I can't count. We already did 1, didn't we? And that's the one we're going to join to. So there's our chain 2. There is the top of that first double crochet that we made, and we are just slip stitching to join. So at the end of round 5, you should have 64 double crochets, along with your 3 popcorns, making a total of 12 on each side, and you've still got your 4 chain 1 spaces. Just to let you know that my square is not currently laying flat, but the final 2 rounds of this square will sort all of that out for us. For round 6, we begin with our chain of 2, and we're kind of repeating round 4, but obviously there are more stitches in between. So we start with a double crochet into the same as that chain 2, and then we're working our next double crochet in the middle of our popcorn, into the top of our popcorn, should I say. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 stitches. So that's 2, 3, 4 and 5, before working into the top of our popcorn stitch with another double crochet. We're then going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, which takes us over to our corner. Into the corner we're working 2 double crochets, a chain of 2 to maintain that corner space, and a further 2 double crochets. Making sure we hit that first stitch, we're working 1 double crochet into each of the next 3. There's number 3. That nearly fooled me there. Yeah, that's a really tricky one. I nearly missed that one. And then we're working into the top of our popcorn. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 so far, yeah. And then we're working 1 double crochet into each of the next 5. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. We work into the top of our popcorn once again, and repeat that all again, working 1 double crochet into each of the next 5 and into the top of our next popcorn. We're then going to work into the top of that next popcorn before working 1 double crochet into each of the next 3, which brings us over to our next corner. We're going to work our normal 2 double crochet, a chain of 2 and a further 2 double crochets into that corner space, and then we're just going to need to repeat this side around the other 2 sides of our square. So on each side of your square you should have 23 double crochets between your chain 2 corner spaces. I like to give you that information just in case if it helps. So we just need to repeat this side twice more, and I'll meet you when you've reached your final corner so we can go ahead and work our final round. So I've just finished my final corner. I'm sure you can already work out what we're going to do. We're going to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 3 stitches, work a 1 double crochet into the top of our next popcorn, and then we need to work 1 double crochet into each of the next 5. 1, 2, 3. Oh, I did this before, didn't I? It's only 4. And 4. And that brings us back to where we need to join. So there's our chain 2, there's our top of the first double crochet that we made, and that's where we're going to be joining. At the end of round 6 you should have a total of 92 double crochets, and of course you've got your 4 chain 2 spaces. My square isn't 100% flat, but it's a lot flatter when I give it a bit of a stretch and a pull. So this one might be one that needs to be blocked, unfortunately. So for round 7, our final round for this square, we begin with a chain of 1 that does not count, and we're working 1 US single crochet into each stitch across over to our corner. So work 1 single crochet into each over to your first corner, and I will meet you there. Once you've reached your first corner, we are going to be working 2 single crochets, a chain of 2 and a further 2 single crochets. Now this is where it really becomes easy to miss that first stitch. So just by giving the gentle tug, you'll find that first stitch. Ready to continue working around, making 1 single crochet into each stitch around to your next corner. In that corner, we are working 2 single crochets, a chain 2, and a further 2 single crochets. Continue to repeat that all the way around back to where we join, and I'm going to meet you there where I'll be showing you how to join your granny square using the invisible join. I'll see you shortly once you've worked almost all of this final round. Just making my final single crochet, and instead of slip stitching to join to that first stitch that we made, I'm going to grab my scissors, make a cut in my yarn and use my hook to bring it all the way through that final stitch that we've made. I'm going to thread that onto my needle, and then I'm going to use this to make a type of invisible join. So I'm going to go underneath the stitch that we would be slip stitching to but instead I'm going under with my needle and pulling it all the way through. And then to close, I go through the back loop of that stitch where that yarn was coming out. Make that a little bit nice and tight. And then I'm just going to make a knot around one of the loops of the back of the stitches. So this is on the wrong side, and it makes a near invisible join. And because we've made that stitch pretty much disappear, it doesn't change our stitch count. So we still have the right stitch count going all the way around our square. There we are, that's a bit flatter, isn't it? That's the joy of adding those extra couple of rounds. Just makes it that much flatter, easier to manage square. And there we have our energetic square full of these beautiful popcorn stitches. Thank you so much for joining me. I will see you in the next video.